XM Walkover begins now.
There it is. Start walking, assholes.
All right, Anthony.
Oh, God, I hate this stupid thing. You could always tell when it's going to be freezing cold because we'll be doing the broadcasted walkover.
Yeah, this is brilliant on our part. We had, 6, 7, 8 months to do this, and then we decided to bring the walkover back as it gets cold.
And it hasn't really been bad the past few days of walking over, not like really cold. But today, again, we're doing the stupid walkover. It's really cold. I'm fucking freezing.
Did Jimmy even realize that there was a walkover going on?
What did he do? He just bolted?
He's out.
Good man.
If I know Jimmy, though, I think he's obsessing about his tickets, and he's in front of a computer. So far, 100.
How many?
120,
How many?
130, 140. He's just going to sit there.
How many have I sold?
How many have I sold? I'm a meaty-breasted nothing.
Still the hustle and bustle going on.
Yeah.
This city's amazing during this time of year.
What is he saying?
Uh-huh. What is he doing? Oh, is that crazy guy?
9/11 guy? Oh, my God. Why do we have to deal with you today?
It's okay, Kenny.
What?
Let's talk.
How come they were still alive to jump out of the buildings if the fires were hot enough in that building to melt the steel?
What? They jumped out because it was hot.
If it was hot enough to melt the steel, how come they were still alive to be able to jump?
Dude, they jumped, and then the building fell hours later, or an hour or so later. So it was hot enough for them to jump. And then as the fire kept burning...
The official story said that it was thousands of degrees.
Yeah. Yeah, those people... Dude, those people that were on the thousands of degrees floors were dead instantly. The other people that were above it, as the fire kept burning, they got trapped and had to jump. That makes perfect sense.
Well, the official story said that the fires were very intense.
They were. That's what melted the steel or softened the steel enough to make the building fall.
Look, the way those buildings were built, they were built like a web. Steel is a good conductor.
Of what?
You need to heat up the whole. You need to heat up the whole structure before there's even any type of failure.
It was really proven by engineers that just enough heat to soften the metal was enough to make the floors buckle, and the support system for that building was such that the floors actually supported.
Is this why Stephen Jones, a physicist, found thermates when he was able to get a sample of the steel?
Are you saying that the building was demolished?
Hey, there's enough questions to warrant a new investigation, a new independent investigation.
What questions? Like, was it demolished? Do you think that it was a controlled detonation that brought the buildings down?
Of course.
So you say that for weeks in advance, people were planting explosives, and while people were working in the trade center.
There were many witness testimonies that said that they were on the weekends they would shut down the power of the whole building.
Yeah, but do you know what?
Look,
let me explain to you.
I know you know
what it takes? Okay. Do you know what it takes to wire a regular-sized building for detonation? It takes months, and they have to strip the building. They have to drill holes in the concrete and plant explosives, wire them all the way back to a detonator. How is that going to be done in a building that is carrying on business?
As you might know, as you remember, that whole... I am answering the question.
All right.
The building was not filled to capacity.
It doesn't
Many people that came in on Monday found dust on their computers that they had to clean up, like there was construction going on.
Because there was probably construction going on. Like, I used to work in buildings like that. On a nightly basis, you'd go and change around air conditioning registers, and dust would fall on desks. It's a big difference, a little dust on the desk, and taking jackhammers, drilling holes in concrete and steel, and planting what would amount to thousands of pounds of explosives to bring down a building of that size.
How come the firefighter's testimony on the 9/11 Commission report was not even added to the 9/11 Commission report, stating that there were explosions going on?
There probably was. There was flammable equipment in there. There was mechanical units.
John Schroeder.
And other
you can
things
look it up on YouTube. John Schroeder.
That when concrete slabs are falling on top of.
Right now, saying that he covered it up.
Really? What?
Saying
what did Giuliani cover up?
Hundreds of witness testimony saying there were explosives in the building.
Are you guys all together?
I don't think that there were.
Oh, we just give a shit, man.
Yeah.
Unlike you.
Oh, that's funny. You don't know the first thing about me,
Well,
asshole.
why are you defending the Popular Mechanics article?
I didn't say shit about this,
The Popular Mechanicals article? I read that.
Don't fuck with me. Trust me. Don't
Why
fuck
are you defending
with me.
that article when it was written by
say
nephew of Homeland
shit.
Security,
I asked
man?
you a question. Are
What?
you guys all together, or you got someone just walking by? You don't know what
They're
I
all
think
together.
about 9/11.
I just want to hear what he says about the Popular Mechanics article. Go
The
ahead.
Popular Mechanics article was written by Benji Chertoff, who's the nephew of the head of Homeland Security, Michael Chertoff.
Uh-huh.
And they fired
So-
the entire staff
so-
of Popular Mechanics article months before they printed that.
But wouldn't it make sense that you would get a guy that kind of would be able to have access to some information like that?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Like that guy. You said he's the nephew of one of the gentlemen from Homeland
Homeland
Security.
Security, the
So wouldn't you
organization
think
was created after 9/11 to
wouldn't you
prevent it.
think that somebody like that would have access to certain records and information that would give him a more accurate interpretation of what happened?
You're right. All his credentials say that, he wrote high school football articles for, his school paper, So I would understand why they would make him the senior fact checker.
Can I just
of
ask you
Popular
one
Mechanics
easy
article.
question then?
What's that?
Isn't it easier to say that a few fanatics got on planes and destroyed our buildings instead of this vast conspiracy involving thousands of people and logistics that are nearly impossible?
Yeah, it's
So
really,
isn't it
it's really
easier
easy
to
say that? That's why that's what's used to.
No,
that's
it's
the
not what's
package.
used. I'm not saying what's used. It's just what it was. Why can't it just be? Can you even accept for a second that maybe, I won't even say indefinite, that maybe that's all it was some fanatics that blew up some of our buildings based on their hatred of our way of life?
I did. I accepted it for a few years, man. But, after going into it and investigating things about it, it's clear
What
that
did you
there's things that are coming
investigate?
up.
How did you investigate?
There's
Looking at
senators that were coming out
websites
saying that were part of the 9/11 Commission report saying there was a FARC. Bob Graham came out and said it was a FARC. These people have come out.
FARC. I love FARC.com.
Were the planes an illusion?
Yeah.
You know what? I want to believe the official story, but after reading parts of the 9/11 Commission report, not the whole
I read
thing,
the 9/11 Commission
it didn't
report.
add up.
It made sense.
It didn't make
It made sense
Why
based
was
on
Building 7 not mentioned in the 9/11
Building
Commission report?
7. The whole Building 7 thing is
when a
ridiculous,
building
sir.
falls in, what was it, 7 seconds? 8 seconds? Free fall?
Oh, here it is, the gravity thing. I've read that
No,
too.
no, it's not a gravity thing. I'm saying when it falls in 8 seconds, it's not mentioned in the report. Like, it's kind of strange. Like,
It fell because it was damaged by another building
But then
falling
why did
into
they
the
not
front of it.
mention in this
It was
report?
on fire for a while.
Why not investigate that? Like,
Why investigate? It's part of the whole picture. It fell down. There was 2 planes that fucking hit buildings. That's what happened. There wasn't this vast conspiracy.
Right, man. Well, everyone that thinks this is crazy and you win.
Well, okay. I'm glad you could.
There's another guy.
Yes, sir. Oh, okay. One more. Yeah.
Look, you guys obviously haven't done your research.
I've done. Wait.
There's a lot of really
Not
good
obviously. I have
books.
done
You
a
talk about websites,
lot of
there's
research.
good books. The New Pearl Harbor by David Gray Rifford. I would challenge you, David Ray Griffin. I would challenge you to read that and then come back on your show and say what you disagree with in that book. He lays it out piece by piece. It's not
then
just,
you could-
it's not just websites. It's not just a lot
Yeah,
of
but then you can read
conspiracy.
another book, and
Look-
it'll give you a different point of view. I will not accept one of your little flyers. Have fun with that.
check out 9/11.
Here, Norton.
Believe me, I've looked at both sides very thoroughly, and the one that makes
That's
the
not
most
true.
sense is the
You
easiest
can't stand
thing.
here and say what you're saying
You-
if that's true.
you
You're
don't-
being a gatekeeper.
You don't think that there were fanatic
What-
Muslims that hate our way of life that tried to bring down the Trade Center back in '93? So why don't you think that this is possible, that they succeeded and
Possible that they beat $1 trillion defense
Yes,
system?
they did.
Some guys in a cave who
we
had
were
a couple $1 million.
delusional thinking we were safe is
That's
what
the
happened.
crazy conspiracy
No,
theory,
it
sir.
just doesn't make you feel safe knowing that with all we have in place, they got
19
us.
hijackers
Yes.
from Saudi Arabia
Yes.
attacked us,
Yes.
able to score 4 hits in the most defended
Yes.
airspace in the world.
Yes.
So we invaded Iraq and Afghanistan.
Thank you.
Can I ask one question?
Yes, that's exactly what
Well,
happened.
can I ask you a question?
Wow.
An honest question, not even to attack you. But if they were going to go through all that trouble, why not just go through the parking garages and do it the way they tried to do it in '93. I mean,
that
honestly,
was an inside job as well.
Hold on, dude. Hold on. You keep jumping up. You're reacting emotionally. I'm asking you, if you're going to go through all of this trouble and you want to bring the buildings down, why not just go through the parking garages where you have so few people to neutralize and so few... Hold on, dude, hold on. Think about it logically. You're talking about security and faking voices or doing all this shit to hide passengers. Why not just put explosives in the garage and knock the buildings down that way?
We're not claimed to know all the answers. I mean, that's why we need.
But I'm not even saying you should know that. But I'm saying that's when you're looking at the government, the same bungling government that, like, you know, if they were trying to do this to invade Afghanistan or Iraq, Jesus, couldn't they have come up with a better reason than leaving Colin Powell hanging with that awful uranium thing? I mean, look at how fast that story fell apart. If they were brilliant enough to pull off 9/11.
Yeah, they're too incompetent to pull off 9/11.
Could they leave Colin Powell hanging with that shitty, awful... I mean, it was an embarrassment for the U.S. government.
Look, invading Iraq wasn't the only reason that this was probably done.
We could have done that, by the way, without 9/11, because they had been fucking with the sanctions for years. So any time we wanted, we could have invaded Iraq.
Exactly. It's a whole strategy of destabilizing the Middle East and
we didn't need to blow the buildings up
here, chipping away at our civil liberties in the United States. It's not just about one thing. The towers themselves were not profitable anymore. They were white elephants.
Well, that's another.
But dude, when governments do things like this, it's a whole. You know,
but there's a whole range.
You're giving them a lot more credit than they're due. You're giving the United States government officials a lot more credit than they're due for pulling something off like this, my friend. A lot more.
The basic question of why. I mean, it's a really simple question, but you got to think about it. It's like the intricacies you'd have to do to pull this off as brilliantly as they did when they could have went through the parking garages.
Have you heard of Operation Northwoods?
No, I don't. Any of that stuff. I mean, I've heard there's a million little operations. They were going to shoot a plane down over Cuba.
Yeah,
I've heard all that. Yes,
and that was signed by the Joint Chiefs. So I mean,
maybe it was, but that wasn't a passenger airline being filmed. That was supposed to be done between the Cuba and Florida. Yeah. It's different. I'm not talking. Come on,
but I mean,
that's a bad example.
Yeah, they bring that up. They bring up the Gulf of Tonkin. There's plenty of examples.
Stick with this basic question of why not go if they're going to plant things. Why would you plant things on the 90th floor, the 78th floor? Why wouldn't you just go into I mean, I keep saying the same thing, but if I'm thinking of this, and I'm not they would have thought of it. Why would you go through having to fake with voice recorders people leaving messages who said they were Islamic terrorists on the plane? There were people who said that to their loved ones. Why would you, all of the things that could go wrong, all of the people that would have to be involved, when you could get X amount of people into a parking garage and cover that up? I mean, you could literally do that with 20 people.
Now you're dealing with passengers on planes, family members. Like, it's a vast conspiracy that covers thousands of people.
They wanted to create a spectacle, something that was huge, that would be broadcast on TV.
Those buildings,
a catalyzing event, a real-time, horror show.
Okay.
Something that could galvanize the people.
You're right. The terrorists absolutely wanted to show that. A huge event that was a spectacle.
Yeah, and I just want to find out who the terrorists are.
But dude, hold on, I don't want to interrupt
extremists.
You,
but if that was true, because the
that's,
news media came on that day and said, "Oh, here's your."
Because we are hated by these people. We are hated by these people because of our way of life. They have tried in the past.
So that's your
they have
proof?
succeeded
that's your evidence?
They have succeeded in the past at blowing up military installations, military equipment, and civilian equipment, and terrorized other nations around the world. It was our turn. They had planned this. We fucked up as a nation who should have seen it coming, and they got us. They got us. There's no government conspiracy
Andy, I
here.
would challenge you, sir, to read some of these books that are out there.
I have read a book, not the one you mentioned, but I have done a lot of research
on Pearl Harbor, the ones that lay it out step by step, because you obviously haven't done the research.
No, I have. Don't just pawn me, sir. Sir, don't pawn me off as being ignorant because I didn't read the books you're suggesting.
Why are you ridiculing people that are trying to do something?
Did I ridicule you? We're giving you a forum. We're giving you a forum.
Roy Rowe on your show. You said he had mommy complex.
I said that. Yes,
that kid was an
Yeah,
ass.
mommy complex.
Yes, I did say that.
Shame on you guys.
He's changed his
dude,
opinion and facts. He's looked at
Hey, don't
pictures
yell at me,
and
man.
changed them. He's changed the pictures. It said, oh, this has no plane equipment in it. And then when people have shown plane equipment, he changed his story.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about the Pentagon. Pictures with that show equipment that came from an airplane where he says no plane crash. And then the picture shows airplane equipment, and then he changes his story.
Pieces and engines in there and stuff. You know, whatever.
But I've asked you basic questions.
Whatever.
Dude, I've asked you basic questions.
Why do you guys ridicule?
I've asked you basic questions about basic questions about why would they do it that way, and you can't answer it.
Subject. You laugh about it. You joke about it. You ridicule it.
Dude, we're giving you a forum, and I'm asking you very serious, basic questions. Listen to yourself. You're being the angry young man. This is what you're doing. You're being the angry young man. No one's yelling at you. I'm asking you real questions. A gatekeeper? Dude,
Wow,
that's childlike
cool.
rhetoric. I'm asking you real questions.
You're not taking this seriously.
Oh, see,
you're
stop.
not doing the research.
Stop with the angry young man routine. That's the rebellion against mommy that I'm talking about.
I didn't read the book you suggested.
That's the rebellion against mommy that I'm talking about.
Take your damn sunglasses
I'll look
off.
you right in your little bearded angry face. Oh, don't be such an angry young man.
He's angry.
You're losing the argument, son. Son, you're losing the argument, and you don't like it.
I should be ashamed
We're
of
not
myself,
yelling
but
at you.
not for this.
For what?
You
Not
guys
for
got
this.
the microphones and everything.
So do you.
You a mic.
So do
We're
you,
not pulling
sweetie.
the mic away.
No one's yelling
You've
at
been
you.
able to say whatever you've wanted. We've given you probably more
Look
time
at
than a lot of people give you.
Look at the
You know what?
angry
I
young man
appreciate
routine.
it, but I would just challenge
Stop.
you to do some more research.
You're no more
okay?
concerned than we are. You're no more devastated than we are. You're no more affected than we are, and you're no more informed. But you're coming off like this angry young
I'm no
man.
more informed?
Yes.
How do you
No.
know how informed I am?
Exactly.
I can see by
That's the
your
same
face.
argument
How
I
do you
had.
know how
I
informed
can
I
see
am?
by your face that when I ask you a basic question, like why wouldn't they go through the garage? And again, I know you don't have the answer for that, but
No.
but I see your angry young man face, and you're just trying to prove your point from an emotional point of view instead of logically looking at it. You think I didn't look at that stuff? Of course it bothered me. Why wouldn't the U.S. government release that extra Pentagon footage? Because they do a lot of shady shit. That was a terrible move. I'm not saying that there's been no questions, but like, what if the buildings were hot enough to live? Why were they still? Why were they jumping if the buildings were too hot? Is a question you can ask in theory, but I can't ask you a question. Why wouldn't they go through the fucking garages? And you want to talk about it? Hold on. You want to talk about a spectacle? How about two buildings falling with 25,000 people in each? That's a bigger spectacle. Okay, they would have killed a lot more people had they gone through the garage and collapsed the buildings onto other buildings. That would have been a bigger spectacle to kind of counter what you said about an answer as to why did they go to the garage.
Or if they'd have set off the detonations when people were in there at noon or such and done it that way, they could have killed a hell of a lot more people.
I mean, to answer your question, there was an explosion in the basement before the first plane hit. This was reported by a man that was working in the building for 20 years. He thought a transformer exploded. People coming out of the basement with skin hanging off their fingertips.
I can only tell you that that's the first time I've heard that. I'm not saying you're lying.
It's
but
it's in loose change.
Wherever it is.
Loose Change is a very slanted piece, dude. It's very slanted. It's very biased.
It's not just, I mean, look, it is everywhere.
Very biased.
There's also a film I gave you on the DVD right there, Mr. Norton, Terror Storm. It goes into the whole history of government-sponsored terrorism.
See, and I'm not even saying that governments don't
Admit it. You can find this on the CIA.gov website.
See, what I listen to when I hear like a guy like when I hear you talking, I'm listening to where you're coming from. It's like you're legitimate. Like you're almost saying that like that it's an impossibility that terrorists would hit the U.S. or that it could happen that way. Like you're all legitimizing their rage and like their anger and saying, well, they have reasons to be like instead of just realizing that maybe we are considered an enemy, and they did catch us with our pants down.
Do you
Why
think
is that
the
so
USS
hard to
Cole
swallow?
was an inside job?
Yeah, or how about Tanzania and Kenya?
The embassies?
Well, the thing is, the U.S. funded Al Qaeda. We trained Al Qaeda.
Yeah, we know that.
Yes, and we also we funded Bin Laden, of course. They were trying to kick the Russians out of Afghanistan. Yes, we did.
They were an enemy of our enemy at the time.
And we funded Saddam. We were friends with Saddam because he hated
them
Iran.
against Iran.
Yes. We are guilty, like everyone else in the world, of being selective which sides we choose at times. Every country does that. I'm not saying it's right.
We're not
but yes, we have done
whitewashing
that.
the American government here. Believe me, they've really done some awful things.
Whenever we need to invade a country, here's thing that happens.
Dude, the Russians
so conveniently.
The Russians fought us in Vietnam. We fought the Russians in Afghanistan. Well, of course. We have selective friends. I'm not saying we don't. No one's denying that. But that doesn't explain how they pulled off this. If this was an explosion that brought down a building, I might say. But
it's also been reported in mainstream media that the supposed terrorists were trained in spy schools in America.
Okay, but reported where, dude? I don't know anything about that.
They went to aviation school here because we were stupid and didn't do background checks on people.
Okay, so
the FBI actually was on to these guys, but they didn't have the communication set up between the CIA and the FBI. They slipped through the cracks. We fucked up as a nation. Our security wasn't as good as we all hoped and thought it was going to be. We thought that if a plane flew over the White House, that missiles would shoot out of the White House and shoot it down. And then we found out, much to our chagrin, that just wasn't the case. We were vulnerable.
Thing is, if we didn't have a foreknowledge of even having a thought of planes hitting buildings, how come when Bush was in the G8 summit in Canada, forgive me, Geneva, they had surface-to-air missiles, and they shut down the airports.
They've been putting Patriot missiles
a year before
9/11, everywhere where there are a lot of government officials, like at those meetings. Yeah, they put Patriots around to protect the fucking people from.
But they shut down the airport. That's never been done.
And planes being hitting into buildings it's not a new concept. I think when the Trade Center was built, they built it to withstand a 707. So
right.
I mean, of course, that's always been a concept.
Which is not much bigger as a 760. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
not much bigger. I mean, even oh goodness, I've got the engineer's
name. Hold on, I'm looking at him like, why are you looking like we're having I just look at you, you're like, you want to come off with this angry thing, but we're coming at you logically. No one is screaming at you or shouting you down. So I'm curious as to why you're coming from where you're coming from. We're giving you a pretty fair forum, I think, in discussing this with you.
Well.
Not to be disrespectful, but I'm asking. I'm curious.
Okay, well, I'm frustrated because you guys haven't done research. You're parroting the mainstream media and the official story, and I'm just trying to figure out how to get in and make some sense to you guys, because
it didn't bother you when I asked you about that. Why didn't they go in the garage? We're not parroting anything, dude. You're not the only one that has watched the news or that has read things online or that has investigated. You're not the only one that cares about this. You're not the only one that's... What do you think? Like, you're this brilliant guy who sees it and we're all these sheep? It's silly. That's pompous. And it's not realistic. It's not realistic to think that you're this enlightened genius and we're all just dummies who bought what Uncle Sam told us.
Sometimes
we care as much about it as you do.
The simplest explanation is just what happened.
Sometimes.
But why are you assuming... This is what happened?
Because the alternative.
Told you?
No, because the alternative, the one you're giving me, the alternative that you're giving me is so fantastic and so impossible to pull off that it's not to be considered. No, I've done the research.
When you look at history,
dude, what happened to the people on the planes? Like they were calling their families. What
it makes a lot more sense.
What is that? People calling their families, saying that there was a terrorist had taken over the plane with, how do you explain that? I mean, that's a very basic question I'm asking, which is something the government could have avoided completely by just going through the garage. But when people are calling their families and they're saying, we're on this plane, it's been taken over, how do you explain that?
Wasn't there a 0.008 chance of a success rate of a call at that altitude? Didn't they do the research on that?
You can't make calls at that altitude.
They were coming down. They weren't at 30,000 feet.
They were very low, my friend.
They weren't at 30,000 feet. They were 15 minutes into the flight.
Very low.
And when they were coming down, especially for the second flight, they weren't 30,000 feet in the air when that happened.
Tops of the buildings.
You're acting like they were flying over Mount Everest. They weren't.
You can't make
that statistic that you're asking. Okay, that's a clever thing that you want to talk about parroting something. Why are you not calling her out for parroting 0.008 chance of a statistic when I'm asking a very basic question, which is, I've seen family members interviewed that said, my husband called or my son called. What is your explanation that these people who had their son or their husband or their wife calling from the plane? You're throwing out a statistic. What is your explanation for how that
recorded message on a home telephone?
You don't think there's any chance whatsoever that those might have been faked? any chance whatsoever.
Faked phone calls from family. You're talking X-Files now, though.
We're talking about... I mean, I'm trying to look at you.
That's a little intricate.
You wonder why people don't take you seriously. The phone calls were all fake. So instead of going through the garages and fucking with a few video cameras, the government faked phone calls, and yet they couldn't make Colin Powell look good. But by getting that shit, we saw a trailer with uranium in it, and it wasn't. And the whole theory fell apart, and the U.S. government had to change why they were in Iraq and looked like assholes. So they couldn't figure that out, and yet, but they could fake phone calls and plant bombs in the Trade Center with no one seeing. You're giving the Keystone cops a tremendous amount of credit.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, we're not saying that. I mean, we're not trying to make accusations here. We're just saying there are questions that are being asked that are not being answered, and they need to be answered.
Fair enough, and she's doing that right now. I'm asking a question I would like answered. Do you honestly, as an intelligent person, believe that the government was brilliant enough to pull off faking phone calls with loved ones in answering machine message form?
All I'm trying to say is it would be a lot easier and a lot more convenient for me to take the assumption that I have faith in my countrymen.
No, I'm not asking that.
There are a lot of discrepancies. All I'm asking for is a new investigation.
Well, what I'm asking you is, that's again, talk about parroting. There's a good word to use, parroting, because that's also parroting. You're doing exactly what he's accused everybody else of doing. You're parroting. Now, I'm asking you, forget the rhetoric. Do you really think, as a rational person, that they faked relationships and phone calls and that the family members bought it? Like your father or somebody could be faked. He happens to be flying that day, and the government's going to call you as the plane is going. Does that make any sense?
I'm not taking one stand or another. I'm just not going to mindlessly absorb what I'm told.
But you just did, and the fact that you're saying that it could have been faked, you're absorbing somebody's idea of something that's preposterous.
And I'm saying, as a thinking person, does that make sense to you? Like, no one likes the official version. We don't like to think that we really lost 3,000 people.
Got caught with our pants down.
We completely, no one likes to think
that. Version sucks.
That.
Believe me, that version stinks. I would love a different version. Unfortunately, I really believe that's kind of the version.
So I'm asking you, and you're saying, well, those phone calls, instead of saying, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, that would be a very difficult thing to pull off.
I can't say that it does make sense because it doesn't make sense to me.
So faked phone calls to relatives?
I don't know what the answer is, but it doesn't make sense.
Well, don't you know what the answer isn't? That it's kind of hard to pull off fake phone call.
You can't just gloss over that one out the window as being not feasible or.
Look, I mean, I'm not saying that the planes were faked on the plane. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that it's not, but I'm not saying it's impossible not to fake phone calls. We obviously do have the technology to do such a thing. I mean, but
where do you get that information?
But dude, wouldn't it just be easier to block the signal? Like, for instance, if we have the technology, which we maybe do, to fake these voices and interpersonal relationships, to convince wives and husbands that they've spoken to their loved one in a dying moment, don't we have the technology just to block the signal so you don't have to worry about that? I mean, why would they, again, if we're discussing this, why would they take 40 steps when they could take one or possibly two?
Yeah.
Look, all I'm saying is they're trying to make a big event.
But dude, stick with me. I'm going with what you're saying.
Okay.
But just try to work with me. You're telling me I'm not thinking things out. I am trying to think things out. And there are certain things that, as a thinking person, don't make sense to me. Why wouldn't they just block cell and all plane signals with that technology? Why, if going by that, if they possibly had that technology, why not just block the signal and save yourself a tremendous amount of explaining and possible error?
Thank God they didn't block the signal, because then people couldn't call Ticketmaster and get their tickets for New Year's Eve. Jimmy Norton at the North Fork Theater.
All know that probably sold out already. But you understand what I'm saying? Like, why put all of those things to chance?
Maybe to really convince the fact that it was Islamic terrorists. Maybe to bring that point home. If you get rid of the speculation, okay, well, they called, and it's obviously Islamic terrorists.
And you don't think the Islamic terrorists would be so extreme and so hateful that they would do something like this, sir?
There is Islamic extremists. There is terrorists that hate this country. But the thing is, I want to believe the official story, but there's so many things just wrong with it. They just don't.
But your version, there's even more wrong with it.
There's no such thing as my version. There's a lot of things.
Or whatever. Let's say the opposition to the official story.
Research.
It's so out there and complicated and impossible to pull off, that to stick to that story is silly.
But alternative research, you're being given. Hold on. I'm sorry. Alternative research. Everything you guys are saying, we're trying to somehow rationally, like her thing with the phone call, or okay, let's walk through that a little bit. And all you guys do is go, well, we don't know. It's almost like you throw out a theory, and then when somebody like slowly says, okay, well, let's talk about that, when it's kind of proved to be ridiculous, you go, oh, all right, well, we're not saying that that's the case. We just don't know what the case is.
I don't think you have proved it to be ridiculous. And
you didn't think my example? Hold on, you didn't think my example about the phone thing was pretty good? See, this is what the problem with you guys is. You never concede a point. You don't think the point I made to her about calling your relatives and faking a voice and an interpersonal relationship is a lot more complicated than blocking a signal? You don't think that's kind of a good point? Come on. Are you really going to tell me that? You're supposed to be a thinking man?
Here's what's going on. You guys are getting real nitpicky about little details and trying to call us out on this and that, when there's a bigger picture here, and maybe there's some we can agree on. There's been a serious lack of media integrity.
Nitpicky? I'm talking about your
media
points.
integrity surrounding 9/11.
You see what I'm saying? This is what I meant about the child.
I'll say that there's a serious lack of media integrity. Period.
Okay, period.
Okay, and especially concerning 9/11. I mean, they went on the next day touting the government's official story.
There was no real investigation. There was a lot of reports that came out prematurely. I watched that day, just like everyone else did. They were talking about how more planes were in the air, how this is going here, other buildings were blowing up. That they all turned out to be false because the media likes to jump the gun to get the scoop
on top of the White House.
To get the scoop on everything.
There were white planes on top of the White House.
Well, you know something?
Never been mentioned. But you can see that there's a clip on YouTube about it that was reported on CNN a little while ago, and they have a video of a white plane that they say was a B-52 bomber, but one of those doomsday planes that was on top of the White House. And there's no mention of that in the 9/11 official story either. And I don't even know what to think about that. That's
I don't know what to think about that either.
That just blows my mind.
Who knows?
A white plane on top of the White House.
Was it a plane that was at altitude that was getting ready to be brought in?
No, I don't know. It was really low. It was just right on top of the White House.
Well,
look, you can see that clip on YouTube. 9/11 white plane.
I don't think obviously I don't think we're privy to every security measure that the government brought out after that happened. So perhaps it was some type of defense that they put up. I have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea.
All I'm saying is
there should be another investigation because there's so many just unanswered questions. There's so many things that are just.
Are there?
So
but he accused us of being nitpicky, and this you're looking at. Well, it's a bigger picture. No, not with every issue you're talking about. A bigger picture, a higher morality is not what we're discussing. We're talking about specific things, and I'm listening to what you guys are saying, and you're saying I'm being nitpicky. That was a very valid question. You're accusing the government of mimicking voices convincingly enough to convince relatives that they've spoken to a loved one in a moment of death. Okay. And I'm saying, wouldn't it be easier to do this? And you're saying I'm being nitpicky and that you've somehow investigated further. It seems to me like you don't like to concede a point, or you don't like to be shown that possibly the way you're arguing is not accurate. You don't seem to like that. You're so desperate to hold on to this thing.
I think the big point here is that we need a new investigation. You guys could use your celebrity to call for a new investigation and to do some serious research into this subject.
I've already talked to you. You've convinced me of nothing.
You guys are cowards. I'm sorry.
Oh, don't be so silly.
Well,
you're being a little boy.
You're cowards.
You're being a little boy.
Because you don't want to look into this
seriously. Did mommy and daddy not listen to you enough, son?
You're afraid for your jobs if you start talking about 9/11.
Little boy.
Dude, we're afraid for our jobs, but it ain't 9/11. Believe me.
That's not the truth. Now, and I think you know that. I'm looking. You really think that we're afraid? I am the one, you silly little boy who doesn't know, who screamed, "Let's get 9/11 people on here."
Me a boy?
Because you're being a little boy. You called me a coward. I'll call you a little boy. Shh, take it, little bearded angry man. I get it. You're angry, man. I get it. The government's bad. I know I'm a piece of shit. I know. Oh, is he angry? No. Be angry, son. Come here, son. Be angry, little boy. Whoa! The angry young man walked away. Do you see? Afraid for our jobs. I am the one that said, when we brought 9/11 people on at first, there was something about the Pentagon video I didn't like. I started talking about it on XM and said, let's get people and talk about it.
Right.
So that's just uninformed. And he's walking away, and I hope you have this on film, because he was getting his ass handed to him in an argument. No one is screaming him down. He's used to yelling and shouting and being dragged out of things and having people go, and no one's going to yell at him.
No.
I'm going to go every point he has and talk about it.
I mean, look, all 9/11 truthers are trying to do.
State your name for the record.
My name is Luis Baez. All right. Yep. I've been curious. Actually, I have been listening to the Opie Anthony show since junior high school. So.
But Luis, do you not see the horse shit of the angry young man walking away? I mean, come on, man. You're a coward. Like he's this bastion of freedom and bravery. No one's afraid of the government coming down on us for talking about 9/11.
The government isn't going to cancel our show for talking about 9/11.
What is he talking about? Me. That's that childlike thing that I'm talking about.
Look, just don't mention Condi.
And if we were cowards, we would have just not acknowledged you guys. We would have kept walking. We stopped.
Fucking,
Kenny got in between you and us, and I said, no, let's
Kenny, let him talk.
Let's see what this is all about.
I love the dialogue because, and I'm not to put you down or anything, but I love having just an intelligent dialogue between people that have your point of view and the what you call official government stance on it, because you really give yourselves enough rope to hang yourselves with. We don't have to do much for your story to come off looking silly and looking ridiculous when you just talk. All you guys have to do is talk, and it doesn't sound good.
Anything that was really silly.
Yeah.
So I don't think I've said.
Maybe you didn't. Say anything silly, but you don't think him walking away dramatically, you cowards, doesn't that come off as kind of phony, dude? Like, we're here talking to the guy. We're giving him a microphone to talking to. Do you not see a horse shit in that?
You know, I don't want to speak for that guy.
I'm talking about you as a man. Don't you see the horse shit?
Yeah.
If Anthony walked away angrily and called you guys, but he didn't. He's standing here, and we're putting you on the radio.
That is true, but you know, I think what we got to get back to is the main point. Is even if you don't agree that, all right,
are we going to agree to disagree?
We can say we agree to disagree. I think the thing is we should really have another investigation and look at some of the things that still don't make sense or are still kind of crazy, and take a look at them again. Spend some more money on this, because we only spent how many million?
$3 million.
$3 million? We spent more money on Clinton getting a blowjob in the West Wing.
That was important.
On this.
Okay.
That doesn't make sense, because a lot of people died, a lot of people are still sick, and I personally don't believe that we know the real cause of what happened.
Please tell me where he's going. Where is the angry young man going? Where is the angry young man going?
I don't know.
Is he going to pump his fist somewhere?
Hey.
Do you agree with that, though, that we should have another investigation?
No, I'll tell you why. I'll tell you, dude.
I mean, look,
I don't think we need investigation. If you want to go into security lapses and stuff like that, investigation as to how it happened, absolutely, sure. They've done a lot of that. Like the FBI and the CIA weren't talking to each other.
Better communication.
Tremendous problem in the U.S. government.
My question is, we go with your officials, what you believe. Yes, there was a humongous failure within our defense.
Tremendous, yes.
Tremendous. Why hasn't anyone been fired? Why hasn't? How come the people that are in charge of our security have not been reprimanded or anything?
I don't know about
but
that.
have gotten bigger budgets.
I honestly don't know about that. I would assume they have been.
I mean, that's another
I don't know.
question.
I don't know names or people that have these jobs, but I know a lot more money has gone to these security agencies, and thank God it has. I'm going to
use the term that you guys used when you guys got fired. You guys screwed up, meaning you guys got better positions when you guys got fired.
Right.
These people, when they messed up, they screwed up. They got more money.
I think that they've been pretty raked over the coals by the public, and I think it's a colossal embarrassment that our
they still got
defenses
more
were that
money.
weak.
Well, the agencies got more money. Good.
Donald Rumsfeld got more money as well.
Rumsfeld's out.
He's out.
Because people thought he was a
making
fucking
more money
asshole.
than he was before.
He mishandled the war. I mean, he did not do a great job, and he's out.
Oh.
What are you talking about? He hasn't done a great job.
He's done. If he's making more money, it's in the private sector.
I'm not saying he's done a great job, but he's gotten rewarded for not doing a great job.
It's in the private sector now. People want to see him. He's a celebrity.
So what are you going to do? About the guy not acknowledging points. Like I asked, again, a point about Colin Powell embarrassing himself in the United Nations about the African uranium. And that was a tremendous blunder that was very easily pointed out to be horseshit. And and the United States looked ridiculous. I mean, and I asked him about that realistically, like why all this brilliant planning and stuff, and then that.
What's easier to do? Plant explosives in the World Trade Center or plant weapons of mass destruction in Iraq?
Why wouldn't we have
turn
done
them up
that?
and go, aha, look what we found.
I
think it's easier
let's not
if we got this great intelligent government that could pull the wool over everyone's eyes.
Let's not forget that Ronald Reagan did Saddam Hussein
Absolutely.
Of course, because we were at war through them with Iran.
And by the way, we sold the Shah of Iran about 80 warplanes before the Ayatollah Khomeini took over. So when the Ayatollah took over, they had 80 of our warplanes. Thank God they couldn't operate them.
We love selling weapons.
Believe me, we've given weapons to some fucking dumb people. We're idiots. We like to sell weapons.
We've had to shoot down our own shit.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Look, I'd love to continue this and stuff, we're freezing, and we got to get back to the studio.
We would like to thank you for giving us the time.
Yes. No problem. Thank Angry Young Man for us.
I got a question. What was George Steinbrenner thinking when he brought Roger Clemens back to the Yankees?
That's a good question.
Answer?
What do you think, sir? Got no answer.
That's not what I'm here for, guys. I'm sorry.
You got a
He's wearing a Yankees hat. I had to ask. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir.
Check out the book Omissions and Distortions and Synthetic Terror by Webster Tarpley. It'll be great.
Infowars.com. WeAreChange.org. Check us out.
And as I said, I would tell people to go there because when you go to these sites, you do kind of see that it's
always fact check. You can always fact check. And
the facts change as the situation and evidence changes.
Read the book, though. Synthetic Terror 9/11.
Like I said, you guys usually give yourself enough rope.
Do you see that he's sulking over there? And what happened was he walked away, and nobody cared that he walked away. And he's sulking. What is he? What type of a guy are you?
Jimmy. It ain't about him, Jimmy.
No, I know that, but he's kind of like that.
Jimmy, that's not what we're here, Jimmy.
No, I know, but I'm saying that's kind of what's wrong with a lot of the guys that argue that point. It's that man.
I'm cold. Why isn't there a government conspiracy that makes it warm in December?
Global warming.
Or November, or whatever the fuck it is.
Sign.
All right.
Well.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Man. Stay warm.
Thanks, guys.
Jeez.
Thank you, sir.
Oh my God! Right. I can't believe I forgot the walkover.
Hell of a day for a walkover.
Take a break. Let's
No. We'll keep walking a little bit. Do you want to talk to the angry young man, or are you done with him
already?
All right.
He's so angry.
Take care, man. Thanks for fighting the good fight, brave boy. Thank you. Thank you for not buying into what the rest of the dummies do.
You know what, Anthony?
Oh, he's walking away with a sign. Please film him walking away with a sign.
I'm on the air, sir.
Wait, this guy's so mad.
Oh, he is so angry.
No, this guy's so mad right here to your right.
Which one?
You just heard the whole thing?
Eyewitness. I just drove here from downtown because of these fucking morons. I saw the whole thing happen. Walking right next door. It's bullshit.
Jimmy, you got him so he is so angry.
The little boy is walking away.
Let's talk to this guy.
Boy. When you called him little bearded boy.
Don't call me a coward, you jizz bucket. We're putting you on the radio.
I know. He called you.
Let's talk to this guy. He got so pissed he came from downtown.
Well, what happened was the planes flew. I was working right there. I was outside drinking a cup of coffee. Saw the whole thing happen.
You saw the workers come out that just planted the explosives?
Yeah.
Dummies.
Planes hit the building. I'm watching the people trying to run from the fire, jumping out of the buildings. I wanted to talk to these guys, though.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? The one guy just walked away. It was fun to watch him sulk away.
Oh, dude. You know why? You got him.
I knew that. And
Whenever
I knew that.
you get one of these guys, they fucking fold.
Like the other two guys, at least, were still trying to make their point, but they weren't being
And they were distancing themselves from the guy.
Of course they were.
We don't know about that guy.
Like, get away from me with that fucking angry little boy shit, man. That's that rebellion against mommy and daddy I'm talking about.
Yep.
It's not about the point of view. It's about that fucking, that anger. And then when you point out, well, what about this? Well, you know, man, you're a coward.
You're
Shut your mouth,
nitpicking. It's
bitch.
a bigger picture. Well, the bigger picture is all the details.
Yeah.
So you bring up detail one by one, and they never have a fucking answer for him.
Of course they don't. And he walks away with his sign and thinks, hey, brave warrior, we'll put you on the radio.
Brave warrior.
Hey, reads everything. You got a radio opportunity in 2 countries.
Little bearded man.
Little bearded boy. Don't try to.
Bearded boy
not
was
the only
great.
one who cares, little boy.
We should talk about who the real cowards are. Those guys would never bring that shit to the NYPD or anybody that's lost a loved one.
Go down to the fucking firehouse
or that guy. That guy is livid. Wanted to confront him personally. He came in his van just to confront those guys because he saw the whole fucking thing go down. He saw the actual planes hit the buildings. And, you know, you want to talk about cowards. Why don't they take their cause downtown and talk to some of the eyewitnesses?
Holy shit, it's Eastside Dave.
You know,
how you doing, Dave?
We got to go inside.
Yeah.
All right, we got to go inside.
We must be late.
The walkover.
Yeah, I know.
I'm such a coward. I was scared.
I think we're going to have to agree to disagree on that one.
I think that's true.
That guy's so brave.
Oh, you... You got him so angry, Jimmy.
You know how many hours I spent at the cellar arguing? Beat it. I can tell you a story walking. Stupid.
With that, we'll see you guys upstairs.
The Opie and Anthony Show.